The most dangerous places in Japan that tourists should never go to. When talking about Japan, most people imagine safe and modern cities with cozy streets and temples. But even in this wonderful country, there are places where tourists are better not to go. Miyakojima Island is a place where the air can kill you. If hell exists, it is located here. On this island you can make the most terrible movie about the post-apocalypse. Only no one dares to do it. The island's main threat is the Oyama volcano, which never sleeps. Its eruptions are so frequent that locals have long been accustomed to evacuations. But even an active volcano is not the main evil. After erupting in 2,000 years, Miyakojima has fallen victim to constant hydrogen sulfide emissions. The gas rises from cracks in the ground and seeps into the air. If you are lucky enough to go to Miyakojima, the first thing you will see is people wearing gas masks at all times. For them, it's a daily necessity. Even if you decide to try living here for a few days, the hydrogen sulfide will remind you of itself. It's not just the unpleasant smell of rotten eggs. The gas can cause dizziness, nausea, and even loss of consciousness. Without special equipment to control the gas levels, people are taking great risks with their health. Walking on the island is always a risk because you never know where a new crack will open up. Even experienced geologists cannot tell when and where the next emissions will occur. This constant threat lurks literally underfoot. Of course, Miyakojima attracts thrill seekers, but you can pay too high a price for wanting to see this place. A cursed Japanese village. Inunaki village in Fukuoka Prefecture, a place with a very creepy reputation and dark legends. Locals prefer not to talk about it. It is believed to be almost impossible to get to this village, as it officially no longer exists on maps. The entrance to Inunaki is closed, and on the signs before the road to it there is a warning. The laws of Japan do not apply here. It's unlikely that the Japanese authorities put up this sign themselves, but it doesn't make it any less frightening. Terrible things have happened in Inunaki. Here lived many criminals, outcasts, and those who did not want to be accepted in society. According to legends, the locals engaged in dark rituals involving sacrifices. They are said to have sacrificed animals and even humans. The villagers died en masse from disease or even killed each other in fits of madness. The village has since been abandoned, but its grim history has been preserved. The Inunaki tunnel, near the village, has become a symbol of mysticism and horror. One of the most infamous stories is the murder that took place in the Inunaki tunnel in December 1988, when a group of young men brutally murdered a guy in the tunnel. This story made the tunnel even more frightening for locals and tourists. To top it all off, the area around the village is considered rugged and dangerous. Many of the roads leading to it have long fallen into disrepair, and it is extremely difficult to get through. Locals do not recommend trying to reach Inunaki due to collapses and accidents. A deadly laboratory in Tokyo. Tokyo seems like a completely safe place for tourists, but in the heart of this metropolis hides something that is not told about in the guidebooks. One of these places is the unremarkable Toyama Park in the Shinjuku district. During World War II, the area where the park now stands was one of Japan's most horrific laboratories. They conducted horrible experiments on living human beings. They infected prisoners with diseases and tested new weapons on them. Officially, this research was kept from the public, but there are still rumors that some of these experiments were completed not immediately after the end of the war. Locals still occasionally find human bones here. Today the park looks peaceful, but in the evening it becomes uncomfortable. Tourists who have visited the park for a walk late at night often report feeling as if someone is watching them, even though there is no one around. Mount Tanigawa, which does not forgive mistakes. The height of the mountain is 1,977 meters. It is not the highest peak in Japan, but it is also the deadliest. More than 800 people have died here in recent decades, 4 times more than on Everest during the same period. In 1943, a group of climbers disappeared on the slopes and their bodies were not found until 30 years later. At the foot of Tanigawa there is a small monument with the names of people who died trying to conquer the mountain. Most accidents occur due to bad weather conditions, unpredictable avalanches, and unstable rocks. The route is considered one of the most dangerous in Japan, especially in winter. The narrow paths run along steep cliffs and can be covered in snow or ice. The slopes can suddenly collapse and the rocks underfoot are often slippery. There have been cases when hikers have literally been blown off the mountain by strong winds. Avalanches are another danger, especially when the weather changes rapidly. Even in summer, when the snow has already melted, rains and fogs make the trail very dangerous. Mount Tanigawa is a challenge even for experienced climbers. If you decide to try to climb it, be prepared for more than a simple ascent. This is a place where every step requires caution, and even the best trained climbers can face disaster. Abandoned yubetsu mines. On the northern island of Hokkaido is another high-risk location. The yubetsu mines were built in the early 20th century and were used for coal mining for a long time. But in the middle of the 20th century they were closed down. The old mines, filled with dust and rust, can collapse unexpectedly. In addition, old mine shafts are often flooded with poisonous chemicals that can be deadly. It is said that strange things often happen here. Locals hear the sounds of footsteps and see shadows that flicker in the darkness. One of the most famous tragedies in the mines of Yubetsu was an accident in 1914. At that time, one of the main shafts of the structure collapsed and dozens of people died as a result. The collapse caused a large flow of water. This made rescue work more difficult and increased the number of casualties. In 1933, there was a massive fire in the mines that killed more than 60 miners. The fire started due to a wiring short in one of the tunnels. The fire spread quickly. As the miners became trapped, many died from suffocation or smoke poisoning. In 1960, a major collapse in the mine killed 27 people. Many miners did not manage to get out from under the rubble, and rescue work took several days. In 1982, there was a case of toxic gas poisoning. Due to a failure in the ventilation system, gases accumulated in the mine, which led to the poisoning of 14 people. After the closure in the 70s, the abandoned mines began to slowly deteriorate. Therefore, they can still carry enormous dangers. The dark history of Kasuka Hospital and the negligence of doctors. This hospital specialized in treating tuberculosis in the post-war era. From the beginning, Kasuka Hospital was overcrowded. Tuberculosis was a serious problem after World War II, and the hospital could not handle the influx of patients. Due to lack of resources and equipment, doctors could not give enough attention to each patient. This created serious problems in treatment and care. In the 1970s, the hospital faced serious sanitation problems. Medical instruments were not always sterilized as they should have been. Patients often contracted new infections, and this only made their condition worse. Due to insufficient medical supplies and poor sanitation, diseases progressed rapidly. After a few months, the death toll reached over 100. Doctors and nurses were unable to cope with the epidemic, and the hospital was accused of negligence and inadequate care. In the 1980s, the hospital conducted medical experiments that were not approved. They often included new drugs and treatments that had not been sufficiently tested. As a result, patients suffered serious side effects and deteriorating health. In the final years of operation, there were incidents of fires and accidents. One major fire was caused by a short circuit in old equipment. The fire spread quickly and many people and enclosures were damaged as a result. In 1992, after many problems and scandals, Kasuka Hospital was closed down. Since then, the building became abandoned and began to deteriorate. The place now attracts homeless people and intruders who stay overnight in the abandoned wards. Tourists are highly discouraged from exploring the area even during daylight hours. An off-the-maps homeless neighborhood in Tokyo. In the heart of Tokyo, there is another place forgotten by all, and that is the Sanya neighborhood. Officially, it does not exist on the map. After the reforms of 1966, the name of the neighborhood was removed, but Sanya still lives and attracts those who are interested in the dark side of the city. For a long time, the authorities tried to hide the existence of the neighborhood to avoid its negative impact on the reputation of the capital. The place was known for its high crime rate, illegal employment, and cheap hostels. The neighborhood has become a haven for homeless people, migrants, and people in difficult circumstances. Many of them find work on construction sites or do the hardest labor. Friends, thank you for watching this video to the end. Write in the comments which of these places impressed you the most and in what scary places were you. Support me by liking and subscribing, and see you in new videos.